In the back, quiet on the set. What's your resume?
This is the Bible Sunday morning. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome back to our podcast.
Good morning. Good morning.
Word on the bird. We have our guests over here. Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Mr. Murdock.
Yeah.
Mr. Murdock, what is your occupation?
My occupation?
Yes, sir.
So I hate to be too technical. I like to think of my occupation as an educator because an educator does more than just teach. Most people think that, teacher, like a teacher. But I think I educate. It's more sticky.
So, Mr. Murdock, how long have you been teaching?
Woo, Lord Jesus. I used to actually talk about people teaching this long. So I've been teaching for almost a decade. This is my 10th year teaching. This is my 5th year at Uncom. So I spent a little over half of my educational career at Uncom. The other half was in, shout out to Houston, Texas. Shout out to Houston, Texas, specifically.
15 or 50?
50 years of teaching.
I said 10.
Stop out of respect, Mr. Murdock.
Yeah, it's 10 years, but I don't think I look 50 either, so don't even do that.
So I was like, I didn't know 10 years teaching. Have you ever had like a favorite student?
I try not to one get too close to a particular student for them to be my favorite, because I think that also can be it could create certain bonds or lack thereof, right? If students know that you have this one particular student that's your favorite, right? So if, at least from my perspective, if I know a teacher preferred a certain student over another, and that student wasn't me, I know I'll feel the same type of way. So yeah, I try not to get too close to students, but then also not have favorites. That's why I interact with just almost any and everybody. But I do have a group of students that I do prefer, and that's those who are intellectually driven, who do their homework. Right? Because ideally, that's what we're here to do, not to waste our time. And Max sometimes don't do his homework, so.
My homework every time.
I'm just playing. I don't know, he's great.
You sure about that? You sure you're a good
Money, it's not about me, it's about Mr. Murdock. I get fired with it, what?
So, how did you start your career?
So I was working as an advisor for the state of Texas Health and Human Services. Like, you're talking about educational career, right? Like teaching? You're talking about teaching, right? Teaching or just working in general?
Yeah, working in general.
Ooh, I gotta go way back, a few more years. So my very first job, I worked as a teenager at this ranch, at this like lake, where businesses would have like certain functions for their employees, and we would essentially have to like, I guess, serve them and make sure like, the food was ready and was served. If there was like those big old inflatable things called, the things they have at parties, you know what I'm talking about? I think you can jump in or you can inflate.
Like a jumpy house?
Yeah, like a jumpy house, a bouncy house. Like if it was like a children engagement at the ranch, then we have to like set that up. So it's more so just being very hands-on or technical to make sure that the businesses, like, they had a good time when they were there, essentially. And then I leveled up. And then I got a job when I was in 11th and 12th grade. At, it was a combined business. It was, it's not A&W and KFC. And that was my first and only fast food job I've ever had in my working career. But I think that was probably the most fun I had too. Like interacting, it was mostly old people. They love KFC and A&W. But like usually after church on Sundays, that's when we got the most business, because people like to eat after church, and specifically chicken after church for some reason. So I did that. Oh yeah, that's like a genetic disposition, I think, for me to have chicken consumption. And then I moved up to, this was after college. During college, I worked in the Department of Education, or the School of Education, so I was mentoring and writing, assisting people in writing like essays and stuff. It was a part of a work study program. Work study is like you're working on the college campus, but you're also like getting paid for it. It's usually minimum wage, but that's fine because they gave me the skills that I needed to write my own essays. If I can help them, I showed everybody my own essays. I also worked at like a convenience store. It was like on the college campus to where individuals can come in and buy stuff, but you gotta have to charge them. That increased my people skills, my interpersonal skills, because you gotta communicate with various people. You don't know what people you're gonna interact with. After that, I worked as a medical legal death investigator, going to death scenes and investigating the circumstances of people's death. That eventually got old, but also, again, like I said last time, didn't want to be like surrounded by death all the time. So yeah, that's what happened. And then I became a teacher.
Another question. So if the teacher thing didn't work out for you, what would you see yourself doing?
So nothing is ever not going to work out for me. I tend to know my areas of strength, tend to know what I'm not really good at. Now, a math teacher or an educator of math would not work out for me, right? But I do think teacher, an educator in general will work out for me. And I know it would work out for me before because I like instilling knowledge, I like teaching, right? I like giving people information that's useful to them, especially if it's like in their educational trajectory, right? So if someone wants to go to Harvard and you need a certain score on a test, I can make sure you get that score, but you have to know like where you are, and then of course how much time and energy I have to put in to make sure that you get there. So it's not like something that I cannot do because I'm never going to enter into a career that I absolutely have no idea, because that's just not the stress that I want to put myself under. But I will say, if I did not go into the field of education, I would definitely be a zoologist or a botanist. That's just someone who studies animals. I've always loved animals. That's also an initiative I didn't do crime scene investigation. As my teacher, I definitely intend to go back into crime scene investigation.
What is one thing you wish that you had to know before you started out teaching?
Nobody told me that the road would be easy. That's not a church song, but that nothing is going to be easy. Nothing's going to be given to you. You have to like work for it, right? Again, your output, and I think this is kind of like basics, like life 101. Yeah, what you get is what you get. What you give is what you get. But then also your output, whatever you are putting out, is determined by what you're putting in, right? So if you're not putting much in, I think it's disadvantageous to then expect to get much out, right? So it's very basic. If you're not going to practice every single day, putting in that work, you will not be able to expect to perform highly in the game, right? Be very intentional or strategic in the game. If you're not going to work every single day, you should not expect a big paycheck at the end of the day, right? So whatever your output is determined by your input. If you're putting a lot in, then expect to get a lot out. But if you're not putting a lot in, don't expect to get a lot out.
So, with that being said, like, how do you like balance your personal life with like your work life?
I don't.
Just give us a whole advice about putting in work, you know, like how do you like take care of yourself after you've done like putting in work?
Sleep, eat, right, things that sustain me during the week. But I do take some time at least for myself during the weekends because that's like uninterrupted time, right? During the week, as an older man, work, you go home, older, you go home, and then you literally do the same thing the next day. So there is no pause or like no interruption. The weekend is usually the only time to where you have a day after a day after a day, possibly, where you're not like interrupted by like adult responsibilities or whatever. But you also have to be very strategic in how you use your time. Most of my time, because I am getting paid for it during the week, is dedicated to my job, my education. Everything else can wait until the weekend. So I take care of myself, but I do more than take care of myself during the weekend because it's more time. It's not when you at work for like 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day.
So like when you're teaching, right?
And I be teaching.
Well, not specifically when you're
I be
teaching.
teaching.
As like a teacher, like what was your most like memorable moment? Like whether it was in like school building, whether it was like on a field trip, just anything.
That's an easy question. My memorable moment is when I first arrived at UBC. There was a lot of doubt that I would be able to achieve a certain level of achievement. I do teach an AP course, and then when you're in an AP course, I wouldn't say your reputation, but you gain more, I guess, respect contingent on your capacity, like how many students you get to pass your AP assessment, right? Because the AP assessment or the passage of AP assessment from the student then translates to them getting that college experience, one throughout the class, but then getting that college credit for the course that you teach. But then that can also result in like them saving a lot of money, having a bigger refund check, which I'll talk about. But the refund check when you go to college is the difference between how much it costs and how much you're giving, right? So some people get over $1,000 for the refund check. But again, the more classes you pass, the potentially higher the refund check could be. But of course, there's a lot of intervening factors. It's not really part of the conversation. But my most memorable moment was having over 50% of my students pass their AP assessment within my very first year of teaching. But I also have a very interesting way of doing that because if I'm going to internalize and get ready to teach a class, any class, I'm going to make sure that the students are actually learning. Because if your teacher spends so much time getting ready to teach a lesson, they should also be very firm in having the students make sure they're learning, because if not, it's a waste of their time that they got prepared or that they used to get prepared for the actual lesson. Right, so today they have a quiz or a test in AP Biology, so I try to make sure that they are at least prepared to take that test. Because if not, I don't think I'll do my job as a teacher if that is not shown in the actual data. But then also, are they doing their part as a student to make sure that they're reviewing their notes, studying, to make sure they're doing their work. Who would want to have that defeated mentality every single time they take a test, right? If I'm not doing anything to change that, then I should expect every single time to fail an assessment. When I fail, I don't particularly care for the feeling that I get, so I just try to avoid it all. That's what I'm doing.
Would you say that teaching was your favorite job? And if not, which was it?
From a financial aspect, from a like rewarding, like I feel like I'm actually doing something, like giving back to the community is absolutely my favorite. Like when I was young, I went for, again, the fast food place. I had a really good time, serving the community there, but it was something that was transitional, right? It was transitory to where I knew I was going to work in here, so I that's not what I wanted to do. But I did know that eventually I wanted to become a professor and profess my love for something. Of course, I was going to be criminal justice and forensic science. So I just knew that in order to get there, these are the steps I need to take. And I just made sure that I was just taking those steps to get there. Super easy. If you want to get to a college, know what the admittance scores are, know where you are as relates to that entrance exam, and then make sure you're working towards going to that entrance exam so you can go to the college that you want to go to. I don't think life before going to college is as complex as I guess we think or we make it, because we're more so depending on others. But I do think if you want to get to a certain college, college is not for everybody, so I don't expect everybody to go to college. But if you have a goal, know the steps that you need to take to get to that goal, and I think there's no excuses for you to actually get to that goal if you have the wherewithal or the ability to actually get to that goal. What's up, Devon?
Yeah. I got a question.
Hello, Devon. How you doing?
Hi.
Well, there you go. I'm teaching you some self-management.
I got a question.
I have an answer.
So if you was to like be good at anything like for a day, like what would it be? Like anything random.
If I were to be excellent at anything, it would be investing. I'm working on getting good at investing now, but there's a lot of things that goes into investing that I didn't think, just like there's a lot of things that goes into actually teaching that I didn't think would, I thought it was simple just looking from the outside. They just come in and teaching and that they would get the class. There's way more to that. There's way more to investing than I thought would be, right? Needed for investing. So if I was good at anything for a day, hopefully like past that day, I'm also still good at it, or I'm just good for that day. Okay, so yeah, I'll definitely be investing because, again, as I said last time, I'm not trying to work until I'm 70 years old. After that, like all the energy is gone, laying on somebody's bed all day, or your own bed, not really somebody's bed, but still, you don't really have the energy, the time. You may have the time, but you don't have the energy to live your life. From my perspective, from my experience past 70. So I do believe that I would want to retire before 70. And I think one of the ways for me to do so, again, having that goal and working towards that goal, is to invest. And I think within the next 20 years, I should be well off enough to where I can potentially retire or semi-retire, because just because you retire don't mean you don't come back. I believe Michael Jordan retired and he came back to play basketball as well. So like, that's something that I would do. Get really good at investing, which I say get to the bag, grow the bag, and then figure out what you want to do. I don't have to work at that point. Working will be optional. So yeah, it'll be a
So like speaking of like Michael Jordan,
Oh, I don't know too much about basketball, so let's not speak too much about it.
I have my own question. Do you play sports?
I played sports, yeah.
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Like, what sports like did you play or do you watch?
Hey, what sports have I not played? I never played soccer. I just feel like that's, whew,
What's about
I'm already out of breath just thinking about soccer. I've tried my hand at basketball. I've tried my hand at football. I coach volleyball, but I've never actually played volleyball. But I think that goes to show you there, just because you never played the sport doesn't mean you can't coach it. And again, just because you have not, just because you don't have a degree in a certain subject doesn't mean you can't teach it, right? I don't particularly care, and I know I should not say this, but I don't particularly care to interact that much with math, but I can walk to any math class and teach math. I just need to know what the lesson is, prepare myself to teach it, and then I can teach it, right? And that's what coaching is all about, kind of figuring out how do you improve the performance of the players, whether you play the sport or not, to make sure that they're reaching towards the goal of winning games and increasing their statistics.
We have some questions from the audience. So your answer question.
Great. What's up, Mr. Brown? That's you, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, that's me. What's up?
I remember you was in the 9th grade, boy.
I know.
Young man. Right.
I got a question.
Boy.
Like when you
Right, I said
get,
young man, I'm sorry.
when you have kids, would you like them to teach like science or like physics?
No. I want them to do whatever they want to do, whether within a circle of influence.
But if
Like,
they-
there's no,
if
I don't want them to go to be a murderer.
But if they took up what you did, like would you help them?
I mean, I think I'll be obligated to help them, yeah. Because, I mean, if you have a mentor, things are just easier, right? And what better mentor than your mother or your father, because they're going to have the time, the energy, and the investment, like in the love, the nurturing that needs to go into that person. A stranger could potentially have the same qualities, but that doesn't mean that they will treat you like someone you came from or help raise you right from the womb. So I think it would just make sense for your parents, if they were in the same field, for you to like follow under their wing per se. Yeah. Number 45 kids. They all going to politics now.
Next.
Did you ever like you ever
At the
have
top, look at people. Oh, okay. Seymour! What's up, Seymour? Your breast like Seymour.
No. I was gonna ask. Actually, it's some word. I was gonna ask, what's something you'll change about the uncommon system?
Oh, y'all snapping. Them hands must be a little ashy. Some real loud snapping.
Should be the last. What's the question?
There are a lot of things that I would change. No, I absolutely love the principle. But yeah, I also don't understand why y'all, maybe there's just a lack of affinity or caring for authority. But what you all need to understand is, as children, you need that room to kind of like be your own self, but you also still need that structure because y'all don't particularly know every single thing there is to know. So there has to be people in places that will ensure that their instruction maintained, especially within the institution, because y'all parents are sending y'all here to ensure that y'all at least getting a decent education. And I think one thing that I appreciate is there are people who are in a position of power that are ensuring that y'all are at least semi-enjoying yourself, and then also that you are getting the education because at the end of the day, that's like what you're here for. But I do think that the adolescent mind does not care for or being told like what to do, when to do it, where to do it. But I think what you all will understand and appreciate later in life is everybody has been through that. Everybody literally needs that same structure. Because if y'all just come here every day wilding out, you're definitely not going to learn. Right? There's no way you're going to learn. You're going to bring friends, you're going to have your phone, all of that. everything is in place for a reason. And I think when you all grow up, you're gonna understand that. Although I didn't particularly care for the structure, the accountability, it was needed at that time. One thing I would definitely change though, not the people, I would change certain policies. I don't particularly care for you all having a dress code in the school where other students are not held to the same dress code standards. It's benefits because we can identify students 100% like immediately, but then also there comes a degree of discomfort or comfortability by sticking out as well, right? Every other school in this building does not have a dress code. Right, they do not really what we do. So again, but there is also a beauty of differentiation and diversity, but I think that can be displayed in another form. Like not to what I have owned, but maybe like how we cater ourselves, how we carry ourselves, the walls, how the walls look. I feel like the hallway should look like this. It's a little distracting to a certain degree, but I do think we have more colors in the hallway. Maybe not focus as much. This is the school. Focus on academics is not what I'm saying. But also, like, bring another element that other schools don't have. Don't want people to come here, but then also when they come here, they stay here.
Alright,
And that lunch, the school lunch. But I definitely think they should keep taking y'all phones.
no.
Mr. Murdock.
Elizabeth?
I'm actually going to do a podcast. Really quick, I'm actually going to do a podcast this week or next week with Mr. Capicano. And we're going to talk about the importance of removing like social media and technology, specifically like social media in the classroom and schools. Because I don't think y'all understand, but it has a distracting effect, but then also lowers your performance.
So I love what you said about the phone thing. I understand what you're trying to say about why you take it away because kids will get
Well, I'm trying to say, that's what I said.
Well, you know,
Go ahead.
what you said. I understand everything you say, but let's just say, God forbid, there was an emergency, something happens. We do not have a phone to communicate to our parents what's going on. And let's just say something just happened. That's all we got.
That means that you do not have enough faith or enough trust in the school that we would tell your parents.
We don't.
We don't.
Okay.
Personally, we don't.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So what that means is there needs to be a method or a way for you all to contact your parents, but still not having your phone, right? So maybe that's using one of the phones in the classroom for the students who like want to reach out to their parents, but y'all cannot, and you are not in a mental space to be in a classroom and learn and not be on your phone, and have your phone on your possession. We tried that. When I first got here, they connected your phones and I absolutely disapproved of it because I'm like, they use their phones. One for that reason, but also, like, the school will lose the phone. Like, we're responsible for the phone. But going through the whole COVID situation and seeing students on their phones or trying to be on their phones and they're not learning, like in class, that has a longer effect on your academic performance or on your, like, in school than it is to not have your phone. Like y'all will be okay with not having your phone, but we're talking about hypotheticals, right? It's a hypothetical for you to be in a school and something like real happens that's not a drill that your parents will not know about, right? But I do think having your phones in the class, not having the self-restraint to realize that, hey, I'm supposed to be learning and not on my phone. Every kid does it. I had my phone taken away in high school because I was on my phone in class. But I knew that I should prioritize learning over being on my phone. My messages, my notifications will be there after I got out of school, right? Or when one thing I would change going back is y'all should be able to use your phones during lunch.
Yeah.
If they did not take your phones, then you should be able to use your phones during lunch. But since they're taking your phones, you really can't use it during lunch because they have their phones. But if they were not to take your phones, if they were not to take your phones, I do agree that you all should have your phones, access to your phones during lunch. But then that also creates problems and created problems with social media drama when y'all have your phones. And then that's good at school when that doesn't need to be in the school, right? It needs to be out of school. And then what y'all be posting on Twitter and stuff. So, I don't understand that what you do outside trickles in
Why do you make eye contact
to
with
school because I heard
Oh, nah, son. We have another question.
the streets are talking.
I gotta.
But hopefully I
We're
can
at our last question, we have to wrap up.
and we can do part
What?
Oh, we have the chair there.
So, as a teacher,
As the chair, yes.
would you ever be willing to give down your life for a student? Like, if there's a...
You gotta have to. I mean, in these days and age that we are living, you gotta have to. Because we are equipped with the knowledge, we're equipped with the experience, we're equipped with the real world situations that went through it, to where students are unfortunately placed in situations where they're going to need someone who has that experience, who has those skills to protect them. When you're at your home, you expect your parents to protect you, yes? Ideally, when you're at school, you should expect, if there were a situation that would allow for your teacher to absolutely protect you. And yeah, I would protect the students, but I feel like I would need to be more trained so that, you know, I can come out of the situation living too, and not just, you know, my students living and my students leave. I mean, now, you know, not over there.
All right, let's thank Mr. Murdock for.
Thank you, Mr. Murdock, for your time. You know, it was a great time having you here.
I appreciate it.
This time we recorded. You know what I'm saying? Thank you to everybody that asked questions. It was a great time.